This is my third time starting this episode. First, I was recording without having plugged in my microphone. And when I record, because I want to hear only the microphone, I turned off the audio from my laptop. So it was just a mute video of me. Then the second video, the second recording, the video was lagging so incredibly much. And now I have changed the settings regarding video and I've decreased the frames per second, which could not be the solution, but I think I just really overestimated how capable my phone is in terms of creating proper footage. So if the video is worse than normal, I am sorry. Now, hopefully, let me check. My microphone is on. The video seems to be working somewhat okay-ish. So without further ado, it is hopefully the third time is the charm. It is my greatest pleasure to say hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, you're catching me in a little bit of a weird mood today. I say as if it's not me who voluntarily pressed record at this very hour, knowing well how I feel. So I don't know why I'm putting you on the spot when it's literally my responsibility. But throughout the week, I've just been feeling very odd and very off. And I was like, oh, I'll just record tomorrow. I'll just record tomorrow. I need to post in like a few hours. So, not need, but like I just want to. And I feel like maybe I don't need to just procrastinate even more. I just need to start recording and things will fall into place because I have an outlet. I have you to vent to, and what a privilege. What a privilege. So, if this episode is a little bit of a Debbie Downer, and maybe I know some of you listen to the episodes early in the morning. If this is not how you want to start your day and set the tone for the rest of the day or whatever, stop. Stop. Go. I'm sure I have more positive episodes. It's just this one is not going to be one of them. I feel like because I have a lot of complaining to complain about. So, first and foremost, how have you guys been? I feel like I always ask you and no one ever replies, and it feels like I'm just talking to my phone in an empty room, which is exactly what it is in reality. But like, please give some connection back because otherwise I feel like I am going mental. But yeah, so my week has been great. Oh no, I'm getting sick and my nose is leaking. Um, anyways, my week, let's just rewind a little bit. What have I been up to? On Monday, because Monday is the day when the local cinema, oh, it's not local, it's like an actual chain, but like the local cinema offers a discount to students. So Monday is my cinema day usually. And this time around, I went to the cinema by myself, which I know used to happen a lot. And I've talked about doing things alone and the importance of it. I've talked about it here before, but I had not done anything by myself, anything social by myself, which I know sounds like an oxymoron and a paradox, but like, you know what I mean, like socialize by myself in a way. I had not done this in such a long time. And the reason I ended up going to the cinema was by myself was because everybody was saying no, which considering the movie was going to watch, it's an extremely understandable response to have. But I like so because I've been going to the cinema with this one particular friend all the time ever since the first time I invited her to the cinema, and it's just been our thing now. It felt a little bit like I'm cheating on her, even though I literally asked her. She was like, "Yeah, no, sorry, I can't." Um, but yeah, it's very weird when you're used to doing something with someone now and you don't do it with them, it feels like cheating. So to my cinema wife, to my work wife, I apologize for cheating on you. In that regard, I promise the next time we go to the cinema, which is literally going to be next week, it's going to be the two of us. So the movie I watched. The movie I watched was trigger warning, Colleen Hoover. Reminders of him. And I just want to preface this by saying I have heard certain stuff about Colleen Hoover as of supporting, I believe it was her son who ended up being a sexual predator. So, or like someone who has committed sexual assault. I don't know if that's true. If it is true, what's going on? Literally, what's going on? Like, I know, you know what? So, I want to, if that is true, I want to distance myself fully from that narrative. I am approaching this movie without the author in mind. And this, again, maybe play into that conversation of whether you can separate the art from the artist, but like, I know this is very offensive to say, considering that I can be reflective despite never having been in a movie or whatever. I can be reflective of how much effort goes into the creation of a movie, but I just don't think that movie was art. I'm so sorry. Like, so basically, reminders of him. For those of you who have not heard, I think it's based on the book with the same title. I've not read the book, but it's basically this drama romance, which is about this woman, Kenna, who go. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you are going to watch the movie, maybe come back to this episode after you've watched the movie. But like, also, I have to be fully honest. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to disrespect anyone who put in effort into creating this movie. If you need to go to the cinema, I feel like nowadays there's, like, in the current schedule at least, when it comes to my local cinema, there are more worthy productions of your time and money. And I know this is very, very discrediting the effort and the work that went into the creation of this movie and this production, and I'm really, really sorry. But okay, so let me just get into it. So basically, this movie is about this girl called Kenna who goes out of jail, and the reason she was in jail was because she went, like, with her boyfriend to this lake because it was his birthday. The boyfriend literally being Agudi Pankov, if this is how you pronounce his last name. I've only read his last name, so I'm just pronouncing it the Slavic way. And him being literally the sole reason I went to see this movie, because I love Outer Banks, and just for him to have like a total of maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes of screen time, that was a bit of a disappointment, but what can you do? At least, whatever. So yeah, they go to this lake for his birthday. They have an edible, and she drives on the way back, and they end up getting into an accident, and he dies. And she's sentenced for 7 years to jail because of this, for driving under the influence and basically murdering him. And the thing is, though, she's pregnant while in prison, or like as she's sentenced. So she gives birth, and they take away the child, and the child grows up with the parents of, I forgot his name. Oh, Scotty. Scotty is Goody Pankoff's character's name. Um, so the child grows up with his parents, and it has a pseudo uncle who is Ledger, who is Scotty's best friend, and who yeah, just takes care of the child, like is basically, yeah, like I mentioned, pseudo uncle, and who then, fuck, what was her name? Kenna. Like after she goes out of prison, released early for good behavior. I know this is probably such an unnecessary description. You can literally just look up the trailer and see what the story is all about, because I showed the trailer to my housemate because I asked her if she wants to come with me, and she was like, I feel like I watched the movie just by watching the trailer, which was so incredibly real. Um, and basically, she's released from jail early because of good behavior, and she's struggling to find a job, and she stumbles upon Ledger because she goes, whatever. Yeah, they fall in love, and like it's this forbidden thing because she used to be like she's the reason his best friend is dead and blah 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 blah. Extremely basic, extremely predictable story. And I just think the way this movie was made was giving such 2016 vibes, and I don't know if I mean it in a good way. Um because so there's like two things I liked about the movie, but let's first like break it down. I just need to say that I feel like we've, don't get me wrong, I love a narrative about like a girl putting her hair in a messy bun and like succeeding against the odds and finding romance and like the bad guy or like the forbidden love and blah blah blah. I love this. I eat it up every single time. But the execution is extremely important, because those things are nice when they're a slow burn, and there was nothing slow about this burn. And to be honest, there was no burn because it was very um well, the chemistry was not really sensible between the two protagonists who are like Kenna and Ledger. um so yeah, I feel like that could have been developed a bit more, and the story felt a bit rushed, especially when like she was then accepted again into the family, and like the parents forgave her for murdering their son, and she was reconnected with her daughter, which was the only nice scene in my opinion from the movie, like the only more emotional scene that I was like, damn. Because everything else I was like, this is the type of movie that you can be watching on your like, you can be scrolling on your phone and have it as a background and you won't miss anything. um and I know that this is very discrediting of their work, and I'm really, really sorry. I'm really sorry. It's just like, I feel like narratives like this, because they're so predictable, because they're so worn out in a sense, there should be another X factor in the development of such a production to make it stick. Because this is not a movie I'm going to remember, even though I'm literally coming here and like telling you everything about it. Um, but yeah, so I found it interesting that the hall in which I watched it, it was literally 500 seats, barely 60 tickets had been bought. There were, I counted, four token boyfriends, and it was just, it's not a comedy. It's not a comedy movie, but I just found it hilarious how we all collectively laughed when she put her hair in a messy bun and like put her cardigan on and like boots and whatever. Just like very like tropes that are giving 2016, and the execution was giving 2016. And when they started making out, I was like, Diva, what are we like I missed more character depth. And I'm sorry if you're out there listening to this and you're like, wow, this was a masterpiece and this is my favorite movie, because this is what I was thinking while watching it. This is going to be someone's favorite movie, and I'm no one to judge. I'm literally no one to judge. One of my most favorite movies is Just Go With It with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. Um, but it was a product of its time, whereas this is not a product of its time. I need to sneeze. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you for saying bless you. Um yeah, there are like two things. I'm showing four. Two things I really liked about the movie. Well, really liked is a bit of an exaggeration, but let's just say something positive about it. Um, there were two quite fun moments. The one when they like, and by they I mean Kenna and Ledger are in his car, and she's like, I don't listen to music. Music is very depressing. Everybody's sad and I'm so quirky, so I'm not listening to music because I just don't want to be diving into this world of sadness and grayness and blah blah blah. And he's like, "No, let's just put on some songs." And they literally switch stations and it gets from sadder to sadder to sadder. I found this quite hilarious. And then the other scene which I really liked was when Kenna's neighbor, who I believe was this teenager girl, she was at first not a fond, like not fond of Ledger because he starts off as the bad guy. Oh my god, like I would have eaten up this movie when I was a teenager. If I was 16 watching this movie, I would have been like, this is a masterpiece. But I also thought 50 Shades of Grey was a masterpiece when I was, what, 14, 16. So, like, my taste in cinema has developed a bit, although, no, I still love very much my tried and tested tropes. I just expect more from execution, and I blame heated rivalry for this because in a post heated rivalry world, there are certain expectations when it comes to developing romance tropes. Anyways, so that teenager girl was just calling Ledger jerk, jerk, jerk. And then when Kenna and Ledger got together, she would just call him Le jerk, which an extremely stupid joke, but I found it hilarious. So yeah, if you are looking for a bit like a movie where you don't need to go and be laser focused and you're looking basically for bad drama, bad romance, that's the movie for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch it, but I'm also not saying it's a must see, to be honest, especially like if you go there like with the intention of supporting Goody Pankoff. So it is what it is. And I honestly am a bit happy that I went to see it by myself because if I had forced someone else to come with me, I feel like I would have been quite apologetic because oh my god, I feel so mean. I feel so it's just like guys, I'm in this very weird negative mood, so that's why I'm so hypercritical of everything and everyone. I'm so sorry. I know to all the actors, the all the staff that worked on the creation of this movie. I know you put in a lot of effort and I've not created a movie. I've never edited a movie. I've never played any roles. So I'm so incredibly sorry for dragging you down like this and my opinion does not matter. My opinion is basically it may be about your work, but it has absolutely nothing to do with your work because you can still be proud of what you've done even if people don't like it. So I feel like such a hater and I feel the need to apologize. So if you by any chance are a part of the people who um contributed to the creation of this movie, I'm really sorry for dragging you like this. So let's just move to the next topic. So what else has been going on this week? This week, what should I start with first? Well, let's just say let's talk about this first. So I was at work the other day and there's this customer that comes and like orders a sandwich that costs 6 euros and gives me a 50 euro bill. And the thing is, I did not have any change. My boss had literally been like, hey, please go to a store and exchange this banknotes for coins because we don't have any coins. And I could not exchange them because everybody's just protective of their coins, obviously. Because, like, if the thing is, the Netherlands is a pretty cashless society, or it's moving towards a complete cashless society, but still cash payments are accepted in restaurants or cafes, or like in my case, a fast food chain. So people are really protective of their coins because, like, yeah, whatever. Like, if you've worked in Horeca, you know that if someone comes with a 50 euro bill, you will ask, and like for a total of 3 euros, you're going to ask them for like smaller, because, like, hello, there are other, like, this going to take everything you have in your cash register, and they're basically going to mess up your future payments of customers. So whatever. Why am I mansplaining this to you? I don't know. It's Women's Month. Leave me alone. Basically, he gives me this 50 euro bill for like a six and a half euro sandwich. And I tell him, oh, I'm really sorry, sir. Do you maybe have a smaller banknote, or could you maybe pay by card? And he's like, no, I don't have it. I'm like, okay, then could you maybe go to, there's like quite a few stores here. Could you maybe go and I will save you the sandwich. Could you please maybe go and ask them to break them down for you? Like a 10 euro bill will be just as fine. Just please, I really don't have enough change to give you the change. And he starts yelling at me. And I mean yelling, as other people are in the store, as my colleague is sitting, like, standing next to me doing her job. And we are all taken aback and just sitting there and observing this 50-year-old man being passionate enough to have beef with a 23-year-old minimum wage fast food worker, who is there just so she can pay her rent, just so she can stay in school. Is it, and you may wonder, is it ever that deep? And I keep asking myself the same thing, because to me it's just incomprehensible how you would throw such a fit. He was basically yelling at me that it's my fault, and I should have warned him earlier, which, sure, I could have asked him, or like I could have given him a heads up, but like, again, we live in a pretty cashless society. And I just told him, well, sir, how am I supposed to know that you want to pay by cash? And then he starts screaming that I have a problem and I shouldn't be making my problem his problem, and that he's not coming back. And I was like, okay, have a nice day. Because what are you supposed to do? Well, like, why would I yell back at a man who is apparently so incredibly unhappy with his life that he feels like this is a place where he can exert control and come over on top? Because he's thinking the customer is always right. Babe, the customer may be always right, but not when I'm working. When I'm working, I'm right. And I don't like that I basically have to tolerate being disrespected like this, simply because I need to act professional. And I have to admit, I am pretty happy with the way I handled the situation, because I remained cool, calm, collected throughout the whole thing. I did not raise my voice once. I did not, well, I did talk back by saying, well, how can I know that you want to pay uh with a 50-year-old euro old? See, this is what I'm going through this week. How am I supposed to know that you want to pay with a 50 euro bill? So I'm really, this man is lucky that he yelled at current me, because if he had yelled at me, I want to say 5 years ago, this would have been the last words he speaks. Because I used to never back down, never give up. Because I would never back then tolerate being talked at like this, not talked at like this, and being yelled at and being disrespected. So he's lucky that I have been putting the effort to regulate my nervous system, because girl was nervous and girl was anxious and girl was like, I still, if you're trying to rage bait me, it's most likely going to be successful. And my patience with stuff like this is quite short, but it has been going through a process of prolonging, which I'm really proud of. And I want to give myself credit for it, because I have been becoming more calm and more. Because the thing is, it's not that this requires compassion, but it's just like, does it really affect me? Also, is that like, does he think that this €6 that he's not going to pay, and this sandwich that is now just left, that they're like something that's going to affect me? Because that means that now my coworker has like lunch or dinner. So slay, thank you for the free food. Also, whether we get that €6 or not, it's not reflected in my salary. And I just really don't understand when people feel the need to pick up fights with employees, because I'm just following company policy, right? And I'm just doing what I'm told, and I'm just doing what I'm paid for. And I'm really not paid enough for to sit out there and like tolerate your bullshit, and like tolerate being disrespected, tolerate being yelled at by a 50-year-old man, because like he has such a little wiener and he feels like this is the only way he can exert dominance over a girl who is half his age. Like, babe, I really don't think that I was making my problem a you problem. I think you were trying to make your problem my problem. And you just were not happy that I didn't catch the bait, because I could have yelled. I could have yelled. But like, I appear to be mature enough to know when to not yell. And it's just like, is it ever that serious? Is it ever that deep? And I'm not making a request that's unheard of. I'm not making a request that's uncommon, especially in this society in which we live, where many stores, many places do not accept any sort of cash. And mind you, I mean, yes, now we did remove this sign, but there used to be a sign that used to, in bold words, say, if you're going to pay by cash, pay with the exact amount only. Otherwise, it's not accepted, because we don't have change, and people would still like try to pay with a 50 or €100 bill for their €5 sandwich. And I'm like, as the sign says, so like people like literacy skills, comprehension skills out the window. Out the window. Like, I'm sorry, you can look through 1 year and see what's going on out throughout the other. Anyways, yeah, no, this week I really am a pleasure to be around. So I'm really happy with the way I handled this situation. I told my boss, well, my boss and my manager, both of them were on my side. So let's go. Let's go. Yeah, if you're just going to be disrespectful to staff, stay home. Stay home. Like, it's not my problem that you didn't make lunch and you're starved and you're hangry. Don't make it my problem, okay? Okay, thank you. Um, what else has been going on this week? I feel like just this week I complain that I'm not happy and I complain that I'm angry, but at the end of the day, do I really give myself a chance to be happy when I wake up, I immediately start playing The Prophecy by Taylor Swift. Like, do I even, like, does a concept of can I be happy today even cross my mind when this is my morning ritual this week? But there's just no one that does sad songs or basically sad poetry accompanied by music the way Taylor does. I'm sorry. So yeah, I've just been in that mood. I'm in my I don't know what it's called in English, but I'll just do literal translation to the astrology baddies out there. Do let me know what it is exactly. But basically, when I was in high school, my literature teacher would inform us about this thing called Saturn's hole. Um, and it's basically this thing of a month before your birthday and a month after your birthday, you're most susceptible to bad things happening to you and you're most susceptible to dying. Like, that's why a lot of people die around or on their birthday. So I just feel like I'm in my, because would it be like translated to Saturn's return? No, it's not Saturn's return, because that's like something else. Just like this existential hole I'm in right now, and I'm trying to explain it like this so that I like just take all the blame from myself and take all responsibility from myself and just like spill them over to another entity, like an external factor, so that I don't feel shit about myself. So I'm doing that, and that's clearly not helping. But hey, at least I'm writing poetry, because the good thing is, I mean, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I had not written, so I write poetry only when I'm sad. Most of my poetry is about death. Most of my poetry is about heartbreak, sadness, depression. Um Not all, but like the overwhelming majority. And this is a way for me to cope with what I'm going through, because sometimes I really struggle to express how I feel, but it feels nicer and more understanding when I write it in rhymes. Um, so I had not written poetry in a long time, which meant that I was doing okay. But now, at least when I'm not doing okay, at least I'm like writing some bars. And I know that's not very humble of me to say, but it's just, well, to be honest, my poetry is not what it used to be. My poetry used to be something quite good. And the only reason I'm saying this is because, like, I've had people who teach literature like analyze my work and like tell me, oh, it's okay, it's reminiscent of this, and it's like good, this is good, and this is what you do, that is very impressive, and whatever. So that's why, like, because of this external validation, I can recognize that my poetry used to be something quite good. And then I just stopped practicing poetry. I feel like I stopped writing once I started podcasting, which it's a little bit sad that it had to be a trade off. But now, because I constantly had an outlet in the face of Dirty Martini, I no longer felt the need to rhyme my pain away. Um, but yeah, it feels nice. I mean, like, it's not nice to be sad, but like, it feels nice to be writing again. And I see that because I've not practiced writing poetry in such a long time and I've not read poetry in such a long time, I have lost a little bit of my spark, a little bit of my flair, a little bit of my approach. So I am trying to gain it back, because my poetry is not hyper creative when it comes to structure, because my poetry is always hyper organized and hyper what you like textbook poetry, in terms of like things always have to rhyme, and like the lines that rhyme need to have the same amount of syllables. So in that sense, it is quite structured, despite it being still, I would say, creative. So it feels nice to be writing again. And I remember I used to write at least one or two poems every month, which may not sound like a lot to some of you who maybe are like, I don't know, like Shakespeare, and like are hyper productive in the realm of poetry. But like, I feel like that was sufficient. And yeah, the process of writing a poem is very interesting the way I experience it, because it's never something I plan, or at least not anymore, because like I had this, like, it was a New Year's resolution of mine a few years back when I was still writing a lot, that I want to write at least one poem per month. So sometimes which is not great because you're forcing art, you're forcing your muse, which is not how art works at all. um so you would sometimes like, because every single time I write something, I always sign it by the date, the hour, and like my pseudonym or my initials. So basically you would see that because I had to, like, who made me had have to, like, it was just me, it was like a self-imposed cage, um to write a poem that month, and it was literally the last day of the month, so a lot of my poems would be written on the last day of the month that year. But now, because I don't have this deadline, which is just completely unnecessary, it just comes whenever it comes. And i I have not talked with other people about how they write, but I don't know if I don't know if this is like a common experience in terms of writing. But for me, w- when a poem is about to be written, I physically feel it. Like sometimes it's brewing up for a few days or a day or an hour or like a few minutes. Like sometimes, because like once I start writing, I write fast because like it's been brewing up and I just put it into words. But basically, the way my mind works when a poem is about to be written is like my mind just starts drawing kind of like a mind map, which is interesting because I normally don't like using mind maps to construct anything in my life because I just find them not aesthetically pleasing. So basically, my mind just starts drawing these mind maps of words that I want to include and words that rhyme. And then it's so, like, for example, this is not always how it works, but this is how a lot of the times it works. Like, I just have like words that I write down, and then I just write the sentences, and like, but I'm led by the words, which is interesting. Like, I'm not led necessarily by the emotion which I want the whole poem by itself to convey. I am navigated and influenced by the words which my mind conceives to be put into that poem. And sometimes when I write a poem, I don't know where it's going. And when I read it and I'm like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. And then I just start editing and rearranging. But the thing is, you need to have written something in order to edit. Um, so yeah, I find the whole like, even though it's performed by me, or like maybe because it is, like, let's not put myself down that much, I just find the whole process of poetry writing very fascinating. So if you're someone out there who writes poetry, do let me know what your process is. And what I find a bit sad is that when I write my poetry, most of the time I write it either on my phone or on my laptop because it's easier in terms of typing stuff and editing and whatever. But there is something so special about pen to paper. It feels so conclusive and so real. And I just hope that one day I get the chance to publish a collection of poems, which I know you may be out there thinking, oh, why do you feel like your poems are worth reading? Why not? Why not? And today I wrote my first poem in a while in English, because when I write in Bulgarian, because no matter how long I've lived in English, no matter how much I socialize in English, no matter how much I create in English different stuff and like write academic articles, academic essays, and like come out here and the podcast is in English, I still feel in Bulgarian. And that's not to say that my relationships here are deprived of emotion or whatnot, or that like my life in English is deprived of feelings. That's not the case. It's just I do feel in English, but I feel stronger, deeper, and purer in Bulgarian. And I think this is a pretty normal though, because I, as a native Bulgarian speaker who spoke Bulgarian, solely Bulgarian for the first few years of her life, and first learned life in Bulgarian and only then learned it in another language or languages, unlike, like, for example, people who um, grow up bilingual. I didn't grow up bilingual. So I learned emotions in Bulgarian. I learned life, feelings, knowledge in Bulgarian. I learned love in Bulgarian. I learned sadness in Bulgarian. I learned happiness in Bulgarian. I learned basically a whole spectrum of emotions in Bulgarian. And while I am able to translate it in English and communicate about it in English, I do feel like it is more emotion laden in Bulgarian. And like that's, for example, which I know can be taken as like a signifier of how I am in terms of commitment or whatever, which is not something I want to discuss on here right now. But basically, for me, saying I love you in English is so incredibly, or like much more easier. And I can say it to a stranger. And for me, saying the word I love you, or what words, does not have to be filled with love. Whereas saying I love you in Bulgarian is something way more meaningful to me, and something that I don't say lightly. Because for me, saying I love you in Bulgarian carries way more weight than saying I love you in English, which I find fascinating. And now, because obviously I've lived in English for 5 years, which is half a decade, which is crazy. Um, and I've been socializing in English, and all of my connections I've made here, and my life here is solely in English or predominantly in English. Um, it's very interesting now when I try to create something like a poem or just anything, because it's a mixture of languages. Because there are certain things that I can explain better in Bulgarian, and there are certain things that I can only explain in English. And that actually goes also for my education. Because, for example, if someone would ask me, what are you studying? Explain the lecture you just had. I would only be able to explain it in English. I don't think I would be able to give it the justice and like be able to communicate the entire meaning that was conveyed in that lecture in Bulgarian, because I've only learned about marketing in English. I've only learned theory of media studies in English. And because a lot of this also, what adds to like this concept is the fact that my studies, because they're so highly theoretical, that means that there is almost exclusive use of terminology when we're talking about certain concepts. So that's why, because like terminology is language specific, and I cannot use the same term in English and in Bulgarian, like I know, crazy concept. That's why it's very difficult for me to explain what I'm studying. And like, yeah, why did I start saying this? Oh yeah, I'm just writing more poetry. That's what I wanted to say. Which is nice. I think what I need to readjust, my knees are killing me. Give me a second. I am getting older. I'm sorry. It's just, I feel like it's just because the weather is turning bad. This makes me sound like such an old person, but like the weather is turning bad and now my joints hurt. I say as if I didn't literally spend the entire day in bed not doing, I mean, like I did stuff, but like I was predominantly on my phone, which made me feel extremely shit. And this is something I hate doing, and I hate that I struggle so much with putting my phone down, and I hate my phone addiction. I hate that it's so prominent. I hate that it's so strong. I hate that at this point of my life, it appears to be stronger than my willpower, stronger than my desire to not be on my phone. So maybe it is the phone. But yeah, so yeah, and also the weather's been shit and whatever. So my joints hurt. But that's just March for you, because March, as much as I love it, one of my favorite months, and that's not because it's my birthday, because like we all know that like I do be having the birthday blues. Um, March is just like such a nice reminder that spring is coming, and with spring, we're letting go of seasonal depression. Yes, we're welcoming just the regular depression, but also longer days, flowers, color, sun. But there is nothing more deceptive than the March sun, because it's going to be so pleasant and warm at 2, but then at 4 you will be freezing your ass off. And that's why I think I'm getting a bit of a cold. Also because, like, of Saturn's hole, I'm more susceptible to health issues, apparently. Maybe that's why my joints hurt. Okay, we solved the issue. This is what I'm going to tell my orthopedist next time I go, because I need to go again. And I'll just be like, Diva, I did not injure myself running. I was just in Saturn's hole. Hello? That sounded sexual. I did not mean it to sound sexual. This is a very, like, PG friendly show. This is such not, this is such a not, such not, yeah, English. As I was just explaining, this is not a family show, is what I'm trying to say. Or is it? As Harry Styles would respond. Um, yeah. But I feel like what triggered my creativity in terms of poetry writing this week was I I know I've talked about this so much, and I thought I had let it go. And the only reason I am bringing it up is because I don't want to let it consume me, and I don't want to give it the power to control my mind, control my feelings. I really hope me holding the microphone like this is not distorting the audio. If it is, I'm so incredibly sorry. Wait, let me just let it go. Hopefully it doesn't fall. Um so the only reason I'm bringing this thing yet again after dedicating many episodes to it is because I thought I had gotten over it. And I do feel like I've gotten over it. It's just, it's interesting to see how, I don't want to say trauma, because I don't want to give it that big of a power and influence in my life and well being, but traumatic events, let's just say, can still manifest and linger despite you having worked through navigating them. So I was listening to Drag Path by 21 Pilots, and I started having an anxiety attack. And the reason I started having anxiety attack is because listening to 21 Pilots is something I had not done ever since I went to see them in concert last year around this time of the year, maybe like in a few weeks it will be a year, in Hamburg. And that was my first arena concert, like a big larger concert since Vienna. For those of you who may be new, I was supposed to go to Taylor Swift's Vienna concert that was cancelled because plans for a terrorist attack were uncovered. And as a protective measure, they canceled all concerts. And I'm forever grateful that they canceled the concerts, but I am very scared. And I used to really struggle to navigate this, and I thought I had fully let go. Um, but it's interesting how listening to a song that is related to, that is performed by an artist that's not related to the artist whose concert basically was something traumatic for me, or like a concert that didn't happen. It's interesting how the mind works and how the mind makes these network connections, and how I obviously don't want to say that I have PTSD, because like this I've not been diagnosed. Um but I just find it fascinating to see how trauma can linger, even if suppressed, even if you think it's resolved. And I just, like, as I was listening to this song, I just started having the worst anxiety attack in the middle of the street as I was going to work, and I started shaking. My eyes started tearing up, and I immediately stopped the song and I put on Zara Larsson to feel better, because like obviously Zara Larsson is going to make me feel better. Um, but yeah, it's just very interesting. It's like I don't want to say it's a part of me, and I don't want to say that I'll carry it with myself forever, but like this thing, even though it didn't happen, thank God. This thing, even though it was just like something that could have theoretically happened, is something that yeah, just doesn't mean that it wasn't traumatic, and doesn't mean that it didn't linger. And I've not talked about Vienna ever since I released my 1 year on, reflecting 1 year on episode, because I did find this episode very freeing. I do find talking about it very freeing, and I feel like that really got it out of my system. But then this just really triggered me. I don't know. Like, I've listened to that song multiple times after this anxiety attack, and I don't get triggered by it anymore. But I found it very interesting how, in that exact moment, my fight or flight was triggered, and my mind just wanted to, I don't know if it wanted to fight or to flight. I was just paralyzed with fear, is a bit of an overstatement, but I was scared. I was scared despite knowing well that I am safe, and this is something that's in the past, and this is something that never happened, thankfully, and this is something that, but that's the thing though. This is something that was very disregarded. And this is something that I could only talk about with my friends who I was in Vienna with. And yeah, I'm just struggling to navigate this, because like I don't want this to be with me for the rest of my life. I mean, the lessons I learned post this experience have been very valuable, because they did teach me about the fragility of life, and how it's not promised, and how there is always like a factor that you cannot plan for, and that your safety in a way is never guaranteed, which is like such a scary way to live, and such a scary thing to reflect on. um but like, I am very thankful for this. I think it gave me, like, I perceived it as me having a second chance at life, and not wanting to waste that, despite literally being on my phone, for example, today, the whole day, and just feeling like I wasted my time and wasted my day, and wasting my life. And yeah, I just feel like this overall negative mood that I've been this week made me quite susceptible. I'm having extreme deja vu, by the way, extreme deja vu right now. So I just feel like this overall predisposition, which I experienced this week, made me more susceptible to be cognitively, mentally, and emotionally vulnerable, which is something I don't know how to navigate. Like, I don't live with existential dread anymore the way I used to right after Vienna happened slash didn't happen. Um, but I feel like I wouldn't be doing myself a favor if I completely disregarded this. Because, like, if it's something I had completely gotten over, I wouldn't have had an anxiety attack. And I hadn't had an anxiety attack in such a long time. And it was definitely something to consider. And I'm really hoping that because I've not told anyone about this. I've not told family, friends, no one. So I'm really hoping that by me verbalizing it right here, right now, I validate it. And I recognize that just because I've forgiven and forgotten something, like with like the biggest quotation marks around it, um it's still okay in a way for it to pop up as a reminder every now and then. And me discrediting its presence would not do it any justice and would not help the situation whatsoever. And I don't want to say it's okay that this thing still pops up in my mind every now and then, but I don't want to blame myself for thinking about something that genuinely made me fear for my life. I feel like this is a very valid reaction. Again, I'm not saying I'm going to carry this for the rest of my life and that this fear is going to be defining, but I also, if this thing is something as an experience that I carry with me until my last breath, I feel like I shouldn't be dismissive of it, because there has been a lot of dismissal towards it already by external factors. And I wouldn't be helping myself if I join in on the conversation by dismissing it too. So hopefully, by me saying this, I again validate my feelings, recognize their existence, justify is maybe not the correct word, but like recognize that they are entitled to existence, but still not let them consume me, not let that fear control me, not let that fear determine my week, determine my mood, because hopefully this is well in the past, and hopefully I can just move on stronger from the entire experience, which I think I have been managing to do pretty well. It's just, I feel very annoying bringing it up again after all this time and after talking about it continuously. But I guess I should be entitled to talking about the things that pop up in my mind. Even if, like, I should be entitled to talk about the things that concern me, even if it's 10 years after they passed. Because what happened was traumatic, and I am entitled to feeling scared, but I should not let that fear define me. And I should not let that fear define the way I live my life. And I should not let that fear dictate my day, my mood, the things I do, the things I don't do. I shouldn't let that fear dictate whether or not I go to concerts, whether or not I go to socialize in bigger crowds. I should not let that fear lead my path in life. I should just let that fear like exist, not diminish it, but not give it the power it was not granted, the power it's not entitled to. Because I'm stronger than my fears. And that's the thing. That fear is mine. I am the owner of that fear. And as the owner of that fear that was instilled in me by external factors, I want to let that fear go, and I don't want to be its owner anymore. I don't want this fear to be my responsibility. It shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't have to be. It's an external factor. Like, okay, talking about like a full back a full back full circle full reminiscing in our previous conversation. That fear being instilled on me by external factors is not my problem. Don't make it my problem. Those people's attempts to be brutal, to be violent, are their own problem, and they shouldn't make it my problem. So I don't want this fear to be my problem. I don't want it to be my responsibility. I don't want it to be my fear because it's not mine. I refuse to be the owner and the shelter of this fear. So hopefully I let it go. But if it comes back as a guest in my mind, I hope I treat it with respect, but not let it overstay its welcome. And with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I do feel better than when I started recording, so at least that's that. I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.